Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Tahira Best. I am a personal development coach and a personal transformation coach. I help women who are ready to transform their lives, make drastic changes so that they can have the life that they dream of, reach the goals, and get the confidence and the backing and the productivity that they need. I became really passionate about personal development through my own journey. And over the years, I've gone from a little broken girl who hated who she was to a woman who's fallen absolutely in love with herself. So, hey, Ariel. Um, so, one of the things that I am working towards is doing a personal development program for women. Hi, Isaiah. So, for anybody who is looking to change their lives, make a difference, who's unhappy, frustrated, or tired, I'm going to give you about 3 tips on here to be able to help you make a difference in the way you see your day to day life. So, the first tip that I want to talk about is reflection. And one of the things that I really had to do is take a step back and look at my life because ultimately, no matter what else happened, I was responsible. And I was the reason that all of these things were happening. I was the reason that I was unhappy. I was the reason that I was depressed. I was the reason for all of these negative things that were constantly happening to me. Hi, Felicia. So once I took a step back, and this was a quote by Nito Cobain that I absolutely love, but it says, "Your present circumstances don't determine where you go, they merely determine where you start." And a lot of times when I see people trying to make a difference and change their lives, they're just automatically picking up and saying, "I'm just not going to do this anymore and that anymore." And they have this list of things that they're just going to exclude from their lives. And unfortunately, if you don't take a step back and look at where you've been and figure out why you're doing the things that you have done, it's not really going to work out. You're going to end up back in the same cycle. Um, you have a lot of people who are on weight loss journeys and all of these other things, but they've never actually identified why they had the issues to begin with, why they had the weight gain. For me, my biggest issue with weight gain was that I am a comfort food eater. Whenever I was uncomfortable, you can always find me in the refrigerator looking for something to eat. And I wasn't able to properly deal with my emotions. And when you're not able to deal with your emotions, you find different coping mechanisms. Some people like me, they eat. I have another friend who works out when she's frustrated, which is great, but within moderation. There are some times when she's really, really frustrated and she's burning herself out because that is her coping mechanism. So if you take the time to reflect and figure out why you're doing the things that you're doing, then you can go ahead and flip that around. So if you backtrack and realize that your comfort food eating is because I don't know, for me, it had a lot to do with just feeling alone. And there we go, just feeling alone and figuring things out. So it just made me feel better. And what I had to do was find another way around that. So in the event that I was feeling alone or um, abandoned or any of those feelings, I found somebody positive to call. Um, I called one of my girlfriends. I talked to my mom. I just found a positive environment for me to be around. And, when you take that time and reflect and figure out why you're doing it, then you can go ahead and take the next step forward. And, sorry, got a message on my phone. So, another topic is going to be once you realize where you you are or where you've been, how you're going to move forward, what it is that you are currently doing that you can either do better, maybe things that you need to eliminate. And one of the things that was most powerful for me um, was learning to say no to people. I am very much so the go-to person in my family, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people can relate. Hey, Yolanda, or Shell, I don't know what you'd be called officially on Facebook. Thanks for the hearts. Um, just now I lost my whole train of thought. um, Learning to say no. I am a person who wears heart on her sleeve. I serve everybody, and a lot of times that can be to my detriment. A lot of my family members and my friends know that if they call me at a moment's notice, they know that I'll drop everything and I'll come to help them. And while at times that is a beautiful and a magnificent quality to have, it's also one that left me very burnt out and very tired. Because although I was serving them and I was being very, very helpful to them, what I also realized at the same time, right, that's why I didn't comment. Well, with practice, I'll be able to get better at multitasking and doing all this at the same time. But I just learned to say no. And it took me a long time. And, in my last job, I worked a 12-hour rotating shift. And between, hanging out with friends, babysitting, helping other people out, helping people move, people need to go to doctor's appointments, and people need to go here. I was wearing myself out. I was just stretching myself out way too thin. And I started having health issues and complications. Not that the rotating shift also didn't really help at all, but I was losing the little bit of sleep that I had left. And I just learned to say no. And I also learned that no is a complete sentence. I don't need to explain why I'm saying no. Just the answer is no. And a lot of times I was so afraid of what the other person was going to say, how they were going to react. So in my mind, I'm preparing and I have the rebuttal to what they're going to say already prepared and everything else. So, hey, Ryan. But reality is, once I said no, a lot of people just found other options. And a lot of that burden, was lifted off of me. And it's a great place to go once you recognize what doesn't serve you and what does. And saying no allowed me to have so much more energy, allowed me to get caught up on my sleep, to be more present when I was around my family and friends, to not be as tired because I was taking the time to focus on what I need. And unfortunately, a lot of us, we don't. We're mothers, and I see I've got some men on here. We're mothers, we're fathers, we're sisters and brothers. We have all of these roles that we play that a lot of times we don't take the time to look at ourselves. That's considered selfish. And what I had to learn was that when I filled my cup up first, that I could serve everyone else from my overflow. So it was a great learning experience for me. And, throughout my childhood, I was born to two teenage parents. I was raised by a single mom. And me and my brothers, we were involved in everything. Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, Little League, you name it, we did it. And my mom ran us absolutely everywhere. And she was exhausted. Now, she never complained. She never said anything about it. But as a child, I genuinely thought that my mom's hobby was sleeping, because every time she would drive us somewhere, she would be asleep in a car. She'd drop us off and she'd take a nap. Oh, phone's ringing. Sorry. And it wasn't until I got much older that I realized, no, she was just exhausted. She was working for us and doing the job and going to school. She was just doing all of these things. And then eventually she figured it all out. She went back to school. She got a better job. She started serving what she needed first, and that became more powerful for us because she was much happier. She had more freedom, she had more fulfillment, and she was just genuinely, joyous. So it was one of those things that you just have to realize about yourself. And figure out things. So once you've already reflected, which we've done, and you figured out where you are, start working with what you have. Oftentimes we sit around and we think of this long list of things that we need to do differently. And things that we need to do differently. And that's great and all, but what can you do now? If you sit down and you come up with this long list of things that, okay, once I get the job, I can do this. And once I get more money, I can do this. And once I get the client or the project or the contract done. But unfortunately, at that present time, that leaves you completely powerless to make any real changes or do something differently. So what can you do now in your current situation? Is it a mindset thing? Can you just become more intentional about steering away from negativity? Hi, Bridget. Can you become more intentional about leaving work at the door when you get home, when you see your family or your friends? Can you figure out ways to be more intentional? If it's something like saving money for a project, it doesn't have to be this massive amount. Start with $5 a paycheck or whatever you need to do to start now to eliminate all of the excuses. I am currently doing a group program for women who are ready to transform their lives, and who want to just have more freedom of choice, the flow to be able to go from work to back home to do everything that they need to do and not lose that energy along the way, and just genuine fulfillment and happiness. And I am so excited about the opportunity to get in a group program, about 25 people is the max. But what I'm looking to do is create this kind of accountability environment where we can all work together. And for an investment of $249, you can go ahead and you can join. But what I want to do is recap on what we've talked about. So the first one is about reflection. You need to be able to reflect on where you have been in life and what went wrong and why it went wrong, and figuring out how that still affects you today. Once you know what that is, figure out how to reframe it. What can you today do differently? What changes can you make? Hey, Miss Gordon, how are you? You can make small changes, whether that's figuring out how to save some money, figuring out how to be more available for your children, figuring out how to work out more, even if it's just doing something that you find online for 10 minutes a day, maybe meditating, different things that you can make right now. And also finding the power in the word no and setting boundaries and priorities in your life. We all have different things that we're going through and barriers that we need to put around certain people. Sometimes people aren't good for you, and it's unfortunate sometimes that relationships go south and things like that, but maybe you need to minimize contact with that person. Maybe it's just a matter of figuring out what it is that works for you and what it is that doesn't. Is your husband respecting your boundaries? Are your kids respecting your boundaries? Do you have issues at work? Just different scenarios where you can put boundaries at. So those are my 3 tips for how you can change your life. I think if you go ahead and start reflecting on where you have been, learn the power to say no and set boundaries, and then on top of that, just on top of that, just figure out what it is that you can do differently today. Don't sit around and wait and hope that a change is going to come. What can you do differently in the now? I would like to invite you ladies to a free Facebook community that I have, where I have typed some sort of button on here. Whoops. Okay. I don't know what I just did wrong. But it's called Illuminated Queens. It is a personal development group. You can find it on Facebook and be able to join. It will be a sacred space for us women to come together, to collaborate. And for a lot of us, just have a space where we can let the Wonder Woman or the Superwoman cape off. And hi, Megan. And just let our hair down. You know, a lot of us wear this strong, independent woman persona so much to the point that we're just strong all the time, and we don't really have a space to be soft and to be feminine. And what I really wanted to create in this community is a place where women can come and, hey, Megan, a place where women can come and communicate, and sometimes just a space where they can just vent. You know, we've talked about confidence, self-esteem, and different things in this group, and it becomes a closed space where you can just kind of let your hair down. I don't really have hair at the present time, but for the rest of y'all, you know, just let your hair down, relax, and enjoy. And that is Illuminated Queens. So if you search in Facebook, you should be able to find that. Actually, I'll probably put it in the comments somewhere. But yeah, so reflection, setting boundaries, and figuring out what you can do now. If anyone is interested in doing some personal development coaching, feel free to message me. We can set up a time to go over a few things, have a discovery call, and figure out how I can serve you. So thank you guys very much. This is my first live stream where I'm doing 2 things at once. So thank you so much for hanging in there with me. And you guys have a great day. All right, guys, gonna get off of here. Bye.